Well, it's a few days on since defeat at Wembley, and it's given you the chance to look at things in a more reflective point of view. What have you come up with?
Look, I'm still proud, mate, of what I said after the game, saying I was proud of the players and proud of the effort. Definitely, that still stands. There's no doubt about that. I thought leading into the final, the way we prepared, everything from leaving here when we had a send off to the accommodation, to our preparation, captain's run, uh, you know, arrival at the game, all that sort of stuff. You're going to look and have a sort of thorough review around. Could you have done a lot better? What can you improve? And to be honest, mate, there wasn't a great deal. We've all agreed, and we even said before the match, there's not a great deal we'd change now leading in. Naturally, in the game, there's watching the game back, a couple of times. There's certain periods in that game that we let ourselves down, especially the start. I thought the start was a critical point in terms of, I suppose, we wanted to be able to lock in, a set for set and put a bit of fatigue in our opposition in the league, because when Lee aren't fatigued, they're probably the most potent team in the competition. I think they've got the best shape in the competition, and they can hurt you. So to give a penalty away first set, then give a penalty away with the ball, and then an offload when it wasn't on, that's not your ideal start to a cup final. So we definitely could have improved that. But as I say, overall, I thought it was a great performance. I thought it was a good game for many fans, and the feedback that I got around the game itself, and people that don't watch a great deal of rugby. So that was a great advert for the game.
One thing that I picked up on watching it at Wembley was thinking, gee, I don't know what Rovers' completion rate's going to be, but the stat isn't going to look great at half time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Again, mate, we wanted to lock them in some sort of cycle where we can go set for set, and then build a bit of pressure off the back of that. And we had too many unforced errors. It was just simple play the ball errors. That's an individual focus. Is it concentration? Is it a technique to play the ball at times? Is it a technique to hold on the ball? Is it, as I said, lack of concentration? That hurt us, and we had quite a few of those. There was a number of those. So I suppose the pleasing part for in hindsight is we did have a lot of errors in our game. There was we didn't have a great start, but we still put ourselves in a position to win. Now, it doesn't help. You don't win a Challenge Cup. I understand that, but I think it shows that we are going in the right direction. But we're certainly hungry for more. That's for sure. There's no doubt that we got a taste of what Wembley's all about, what big games are all about, and we'll certainly learn from the periods in that game, and especially that extra time. We'll definitely get our learnings from that.
Did some players play below par to what you see on the training ground and also in the games that you've won?
Oh, look, I mean, we spoke before the game around individuals playing to their best and doing their best and what their best looks like, and that doesn't necessarily mean around kicking field goals like Lockie Lamb did and winning the game for you. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means around. Again, we pride ourselves in effort and competing and being the best you can be. So I think most individuals lived up to that. I'm sure certain individuals are probably, moments in the game. As I said, there's some errors in the game, some penalties given away, some different parts of the game. But look, I'll openly say Lee definitely handled that extra time better than us, and the way they moved the ball, the way they connected to get upfield and then put themselves in a position to kick a field goal. Their halves connected really well. So we definitely get our learnings from that, where we went carry, put ourselves in or we took a field goal 45 metres out when, in hindsight, putting the ball in the corner and then getting off the line and trying to get them next set is the better option. But again, mate, we've got a lot of learnings for it. We've got a really young spine. So I'm definitely not too hard on those guys. It's all learning. We had a review this morning. We've watched the game. We've reviewed the game. We've looked at what Lee did effectively, so we can learn and get better. And we've also looked at what we did well, and there's some certainly areas that we didn't do well. So hurts. There's no doubt about that. It hurts. It hurts everyone in the group. But we need to dust ourselves off now and move forward. We've got St Helens, the champions, on Friday.
One thing that I picked up there, and it leads me nicely on to the next question. Did you feel that your side played enough rugby during the game?
No, I don't. I thought we stuck to a plan of what we wanted to do, but then we didn't. No, we didn't. We didn't open up. We didn't connect enough. You just got to have a look at how often our centres got the ball, how often our wingers got the ball compared to what they did. So to answer your question straight, no, I don't think we did play enough. And that's, again, it's a learning. When you blow a ruck, you want your halves. The halves need to get the ball in their hand, and I don't think we did that enough. And again, what's our learning from the opposition? Guys like Lockie Lamb got the ball when there was some sort of quick ruck, and that's when you're causing problems to the defence, when your spine's getting the ball and going at the line.
One person I'm going to single out is Brad Snyder. He is a young player, doesn't have the big game experience which lots of your other players had. How much help did he need during the game to get through it? And do you feel that he got that help from around the players around him?
I think with Brad, mate, obviously Brad was really upset and emotional after the game. And I just said to him straight away, I said, mate, this is all learning. Like, he's a young 22-year-old halfback. You get all your learnings, early days, and then when he puts himself in a position, again, some of those positions he were in, he can learn from it. And you learn through experience. But we're not in that final if it wasn't for Brad. There's no doubt about that. The way he owned the Leeds game, which was a Super League game to win that game for us, and the way he owned the Wigan game and kicking that field goal. So for me, and I've spoken to the players around it, we need to connect more as a spine. There's no doubt about that. We need to connect more, and I'll go back to, and I'll praise Lee for it. They connected extremely well. Their spine, up in to that last play, but they moved the ball so that their spine got their hands on the ball. Their outside backs make some meters. Then they go carry power, and then their spine connected. So they've been working on it at training. That for me is a connected spine. So we need to keep building that. As I said, we've got a young spine. We've got Rowan Millens as a young player, relatively young. Mikey Lewis is only 21. Brad's only 22. So it is a young spine who will get plenty of learnings. But certainly I thought in terms of effort and putting everything in, leaving everything out there, I thought they did that.
Two players that shone out are the two oldest players you've got in the squad, which is Ryan Hall and Sean Kenny Dowell. Geez, they did everything they could, didn't they?
Yes, mate, they did. I totally agree. And they do it every day at training, and they do it every week in the games. But that's why, I'm biased. I believe that I've got the best senior players group in the competition because of the experience that they've had. Ryan Hall talks to us around, I've never been to Wembley. I didn't, obviously I know how prestigious it is. I've watched it. It was an honour to be there, but not knowing, I haven't experienced it before, but, just little things around saying to us before the game, if you lose, it's a long trip home. The night's long. It certainly was. It was, felt like I went for days. But little things like that are experience that he's gone through. Again, today we look at the game and, he talks about, we as a group, we talk about what we're doing going forward, and Ryan owns that and Skidsy owns that, again, because they're so experienced, they've been through it. So you sort of expect what they do on the field because they're 35 and whatever age they are, 20, 28 as they say, but they're doing every week. They've done it for 15, 16 years. Ryan Hall had his 450th game last week, and it's an honour to work with those guys because they've certainly helped me in my first year. But as you say, there's no doubt they're up there with our best players.
I want to turn finally in this segment to yourself. How did you take defeat?
Mate, like any coach that cares, and I'm sure any coach in the Super League, that would be obviously, mate. you don't like losing, and you don't like losing finals. But as I said, I was really proud of the players. I was. And we're going to get a lot of learnings. I'm going to get a lot of learnings as a coach. The staff will get a lot of learnings from the game. But there's no doubt it hurts, but it hurts so much because you care. You know, I've openly said I'm obsessed with the game and coaching itself because I love what I do. And it means that, you know, we care as a group. If it doesn't hurt, you don't care enough. So, but it's one of those things, mate, that it's my first time doing it, that you need to get over pretty quickly because we're going to St Helens on Friday in 2 days' time against the champions. And if you hold on to that too long, you know, myself, staff, players, then you're in for a long night. So I said previously that we're going to learn a lot about ourselves over this period, and that goes with me. I start that, you know, I learn a lot about myself of how I handle defeat, you know, going into a big game against St Helens and what we've got ahead. So for me, it's about moving on now. Absolute honour to be involved in playing at Wembley and being part of that. Didn't get the result, but as I said, proud of what we did.
Right, let's move on to St Helens. And if ever there was a game that you wouldn't have wanted, off the back of a huge disappointment and heartache, it's playing St Helens away from home, I would suspect.
This might sound silly, mate, to be honest. I'm actually glad we're playing them. And the reason why I say that is because they are the best team in the competition. They've been the best team in the competition for 5 years. If we can go out and we can put in a really strong performance against a team like St Helens, then we'll see how far we've come as a group. No disrespect to other teams, but if you go and then you win some certain games, you don't really see how far you've come. But to lose a game like we did on the weekend in extra time, it hurts, as I said before. But speaking to the players, you want to play. You need to play again to get over that. And there's no better way to play against the world champions to see how much it did affect us and see where we're at as a group. So, mate, you've got. I respect St Helens just as much as anyone. I've watched them for years. I played against them years ago. Similar to Wigan, they've got a culture that they just get, you know, and it's just they set the highest of standards. So I've got full respect for them. So that's not to take any respect away from Saints. It's more to say that it just gives us a good idea of where we're at and where we can go.
You know, it's only 2 letters in the word "if," but it's a big unknown, isn't it? You know, when you say if we can do this, if we can do that, that's an unknown, isn't it? It's something that you as a coach don't have any control over.
What I've got control over is what we do, you know, post-match, what we just did at training then, how we review games, what's our process look like during the week. So, you know, you've got a lot of input in that. And players have got a lot of input in that. So for me at the moment, I look at the team and I go, no doubt we walked in. Did we bounce in? You know, were they full of energy? Probably not. But we soon sort of rectified that pretty quickly, had a look at the game because, as you know, like me sitting and watching the game as well as the other staff watching that game, doesn't feel nice. So you need to put that, you need to do that and then put it past you and then move on from it. So no doubt, mate, there's ifs, but there's ifs going into every single game. So what we can control is what we do at training, how we prepare now, and obviously what we do on game day in terms of our preparation, and then more importantly what we do when we go out in the field. So there's always ifs, but there's always ifs for every game.
One thing I would say is that, you know, the emotional drain, the psychological trauma of losing at Wembley. Players aren't robots; they are flesh and blood. You know, it's not like an electric car where you can plug it in, recharge it, and away you go again. There are so many defining factors that come into play. What's your sense of the disappointment mentality and hurt that the players have?
As I said, mate, we had a lot of disappointment and hurt, but what we don't have, and what I spoke to them before the game, was not to have regret. So they're 2 different things. The disappointment is that, you know, we've gone out, we put everything into the game. Yes, we weren't technically great, but they put everything in, left it out there. You're going to be disappointed, but you can get over that. regret's harder to get over. If you regret something because you didn't go all out and you didn't give everything you've got, it's totally different, isn't it? So we're a disappointed team. There's no doubt. Watching that game this morning, because we had a couple of days off, the players did. There's some disappointment, but again, it's because they care. So, again, motivation or true motivation comes from within. There's no doubt about that. Coaching staff, all my staff, we do our best to motivate players for each week. But at the end of the day, it does come from within. So that's why I'm saying, mate, it's going to be a really good test for us on Friday to see what is within each player and us collectively as a team. What motivation do we have to be able to turn last week around? And if we can go do a job at St Helens, it's certainly going to give us a lot of belief again to build going in the back end of the season.
Motivation. You've got an awful lot of games which are very important. There's still heaps to play for in the season. So come on, boys. Let's get tucked into that. It didn't work at Wembley. Let's make it work towards the grand final. Is that the sort of rebel-rousing spirit and message that you send out to the players?
I might get you to come and speak to them. That was good. Look, mate, for us, we know where we're at. Like, there's six games to go, 6 important games to go. So for us, it's as I say, like there's going to be enough to play for this week. We're in the business end of the year now, so there's enough motivation there. And again, as I say to you before, like if we come out and we don't perform the way we should or would like to, then that sort of says where we're at as a group. That says, okay, well, we've gone to Wembley, but we're not consistent enough to play well after that. I'm not even thinking about that, because that's not who we want to be as a club or a team. So there's enough motivation there to be able to play and chase the semi-final, because there's 6 games to go. We're 6 at the moment. For me, there's enough to get the guys going.
What about St Helens then as a side? I kind of suspect that whatever kickback there was and hangover from winning the World Club Challenge at the beginning of the season has long gone, and they're starting to show the St Helens that we all know have been around for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think what they did early on in the year is difficult. To go over to Australia, play against the Penrith Panthers, beat them, come back, and then pretty much you're straight into a Super League season. But I certainly admire what they did. They came back and played Cass at Cass, and we're back into the swing of things. Then they had some injuries. They've had some injuries throughout the year. They've got some injuries at the moment, but you still look at that team list and look at the players in there and look at the culture that they've got. Like I totally agree with you. I think they're coming, coming good again at the right time of the year. There's no doubt they still set standards in a lot of areas of the game. Like I know there's, Lee's obviously had an exceptional year, and Wiggins up there and Catalans have been the most dominant team of the year. But I think St Helens, if you look at their stats again around defence, which they pride themselves in, they're the leaders in that. So I think, because everyone sees St Helens not that number one spot, that they're not going as well as what they have. I do agree with what you're saying. I think they're coming good at the right time of the year. There's no doubt about that. And it doesn't matter who they put out there. Everyone's chasing that. We're all chasing that. I openly say that. I'm trying to build a squad that it doesn't matter who you put out in the field. And I think we've done that, relatively well this year. But there's an expectation there to perform at a certain standard, and St Helens certainly lead that.
Elliot Mincello has got a 1-match suspension. First question is, how disappointed are you about that? And second, how big a miss will he be?
Yeah, he's going to be a huge miss. He's been, one of our best players, if not our best player all season. Plays with a lot of energy, a lot of passion. And I think probably in the weekend there was a couple of things there that he'd like to take back. But, it's one of those that, I think it clipped him around the head. So we didn't sort of fight it, because it's I suppose it is, if you do have contact to the head, but all we want to have now, or every coach in the Super League wants to see is consistency around different things. So, that's all I ask. But in terms of Minnie, he's disappointed. I'm naturally disappointed that we don't have him playing. But I know there was no intention around it in terms of going out and deliberately trying to make contact to the head, that's for sure.
And your team, you've named all the players apart from Minchella that played at Wembley in your squad. Do you look to change things at all, or is that based? If you do, will it be based upon your assessment of where players are physically and mentally?
Yeah, I think at the moment we're fortunate that we can pick from the group that we've got, that we don't have a lot of injuries, touch wood, at the moment, in terms of outside of Jordan and Sam Wood and Jesse Sue, some long-termers there. But so I think what we need now is to start getting some cohesion going. We need to get out a similar spine for the rest of the year. It's important that you do have cohesion going into the last 6 games, because we haven't been able to do that. We've had to chop and change. We've had to bring some loan players in. So it can be difficult. So, I think you'll find we'll have a similar team, but then, naturally it comes down to performances, and there's a lot of factors that come into it. But ideally it'd be good to get the same sort of team out there week in, week out, going into some big games starting this week.
It also comes down to who you play where, doesn't it? Because, when you've got players filling in positions, naturally their regular position, you lose something as a result of that, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, signing new player for next season. Tell us about him.
Tyrone, mate, yeah, he's a player. As I said yesterday, we looked at him last year. I've known Tyrone from coaching against him in the NRL. He's come over here. He's had 2 quality seasons with the Catalans, and he became available. It sort of happened pretty quickly, but he's definitely going to add to our squad. What we want to do is add some experience and players that have played in big games, and he's certainly done that. So, he's leading the way over there at Catalans. He's having a really strong season, and he's a player that we, as I said, that we looked at last year, and then when he became available this year, and he was available, we went for him.
Were you surprised that he did become available?
I don't know what happened. Sort of things that happened. I think he was going to go back to the NRL at one stage, and then that didn't happen. And then once we knew that he was still available, once I heard that he was available, that's when we ended up, sort of approaching him. So I think at one stage he was pretty much, I think it was in the media about it too, he was pretty much done to go back to the NRL. And then once we knew that he was available, then we approached him. So it was good timing, to be honest.
What do you play him? Centre, loose forward, or in the halves?
Well, he can play a lot of positions, but as I've said, he's a quality 6. There's no doubt about that. He's doing that for the Catalans. As I said it a couple of days ago, and I'll say it again. He's a player that we're looking at to definitely play in the halves. We're going to have some competition around our spine. You have a look at this year. We had to put Jez Litton, who's a hooker. We've had to play him at 7. Ethan Ryan, who's a winger, who can play fullback, but we had to put him at fullback. And then we had narrow games that we got beat by Wigan on the bell, when extra time. Warrington, Salford, up in Magic. If we had some depth in our spine, do we win those games? It certainly helps, that's for sure. So I wanted to build a stronger spine in terms of our depth, and we're definitely doing that with Tyrone.
Sounds great to me. Willie, thank you very much.
Cheers, Gordon. Thanks, mate.
Hey, Willie. All right, pal?
Good, Joe. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thank you. I won't keep you long. Willem's covered it most for me. How was Jordan and Jesse getting on with their rehab? Obviously, there was at Wembley and that at the weekend, and Sam was. How were them 3 going along?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. So we're hopeful that they're going to be back at the back end, like in about 3 or 4 games, I'd say. Well, that's what we're hoping. We're looking at. So possibly Jordan for the Huddersfield game. That's the aim for him. And then Jesse the week after. Sam Wood, Sam will. No, he'll be still out.
That's a real boost then, isn't it, going into the playoffs and that, and probably proves how crucial these next few games are, because when they do come back, you want to be in a position to push, don't you? You don't want it to be for nothing and rush them.
Yeah, definitely, mate. It'll certainly give us a boost, getting some players like that back. We've got a really important block coming up of 6 games. Well, it's the last 6 games, but if we break it down to 3, we've got obviously St Helens this week. We've got Lee and Catalan, so 3 big games. They'd be nice to get a couple of wins there, and then you've got 3 games at the back end of the year. So it's an important period for us, and certainly to get Jordan back and Jesse will be a big boost for the team. There's no question. When we had Jordan and Cootie at the time, we won all games. Where we won 6 from 6. There was a game there that Jordan come off after 10 minutes against Catalans, but we won 6 from 6. And I said at the start of the year, we have Jordan and Cootie in our team, would be extremely competitive. Obviously, we've lost both those players, and we're still fighting away. So the players are doing a good job, and we've just got to keep it going.
Last one, mate. Is it still the case with Jordan once the season's over, sending him away and kind of doing a bit of an in-depth analysis on why these recurring injuries still happen? I know you mentioned that when it happened at Catalan a few months back. Yeah,
it's something that Dan, our physio, would have to look at if he thinks that's the best treatment for him at the moment. So Jordan didn't have to have an operation, so he's been getting treated in-house. But that'd be something that we look at, obviously see how he responds, how he comes back, and if that's the best option, that'll be left to the experts. But it's still an option, mate, but at the moment it'll be with Dan, who's our physio.
Perfect. Best of luck, mate. See you on Friday.
Cheers, Joe.